Welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. Join Crystal, Andy, and Steven as they explore all things running related in the Heartland and beyond.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. We are the hosts that have logged a lot of miles training for our races, and we've downed a lot of donuts, little chocolate donuts. I'm Andy.
I'm Crystal.
And I'm Steven.
I was thinking about donuts. Sorry, guys.
And little chocolate donuts have the sugar we need to get us going in the morning. And we certainly miss you, John Belushi. So how is everyone doing this evening?
Doing good.
I'm
doing okay.
Thinking on donuts now, though.
I know.
I'm thinking about donuts personally, but I would like to introduce who we're going to have on the show tonight. And we have the Sub 30 Club. So if you're not familiar about what that is, the Sub 30 Club was originally started in April of 2012 when Ted Spiker, and he's a contributor to the Runner's World and the man behind the Big Guy blog on runnersworld.com, and he set out on a quest to break 30 minutes in the 5K. And this represented a doable challenge and a goal for him at the time. Being a middle to the back of the pack runner, he put the word out through his blog to see if anyone else might want to join him in his efforts. He was expecting 5 or 6 people, a dozen at best. Within the first day, he had over 100 responses. As of today, there are over 5,700 members, and the focus of the club has shifted from specific goal of that 29.595K that most of us has kind of strived for when we started out, to the spirit that started the club and embracing runners of all levels, chasing every goal imaginable. There are members who are brand new to running, and those who are chasing goals and racing all distances. Within the group, they have everywhere from Boston qualifiers, Ironman triathletes, and ultra runners. The club truly welcomes all runners, just like all of us here at the Heartland Running Podcast. We welcome every runner of every distance and every discipline, and we're glad to have them on the show. And I would like to go ahead and take a second to let them introduce themselves. We have Andy Aubin. He is the executive director of the Sub 30 Club. And Andy, we've got 2 Andys on the show. It's going to be confusing. We might have some fun with this. But anyway, Andy, if you'll just give us a little introduction to yourself, when you started running, what type of runner you are, and what your responsibility is within the Sub 30 Club.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so like you said, my name is Andy Aubin. I'm the Sub 30 Andy. And I started running, I'd say about 6 years ago. And the reason that I got into it is because I was always a much bigger guy. I was to the point where my nickname was always Big Andy growing up. But I was, 320 pounds. I was, the 6'3" giant teddy bear kind of a guy. I, just like most people who are that big, I tried a million different diets. And none of them really just seemed to stick. I mean, it was one of those deals where I would just rationalize it and be like, it is the way it is. The real tipping point for me was when my daughter was born. I was like, all right, it's time to do this for real now. So I started changing the way that I ate. I very, very slowly worked my way into running. I found a 4 weeks to a mile program, then transitioned into a couch to 5K, and then transitioned into like a Hal Higdon type of program to work my way up to a 10K and then a half. And that was my introduction to it all. So that was the way that I kind of worked into it. And I became completely addicted to the way that it made me feel. I got completely addicted to the way that it allowed me to constantly surprise myself, which kind of continues to this day. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, I just fell in love with something that I thought was absolutely insane before. So that's kind of my path into it all. Very shortly, and within the first year, I had a friend recommend, "Hey, why don't you check out this Sub 30 Club on Facebook of all things?" It's a good place to go for some advice, and people are will break your stones and give you encouragement and everything else. So I got into that, and then I just kind of started getting more and more and more involved to the point where Ted Spiker, the Runner's World contributor who just started this whole thing, asked me if I would be willing to take on the role of executive director. And that was 2 years ago at this point. And basically, it's my job to keep everything going and provide, like be a touch point so everybody has one central, person that they know that they can go to with any sort of questions, problems, anything else. And then I kind of, in addition to that, took it upon myself to try and keep growing the club and keep everybody along that same overall theme of positivity, motivation, support. Make sure that everybody is welcomed at all times, and that's just the kind of the feel that we always like. That's the overarching theme that we always have. So I'm always trying to push that. And then we've started to really get involved in like fundraising for charity. We do some of that stuff, and then we're also organizing big like giant events. So once every year in Bethlehem at the offices of Runner's World. The Runner's World has a weekend-long festival, so where it's a trail race on Friday, a 5K and a 10K on Saturday, a half marathon on Sunday. So, and we make that like our big giant meetup every year, where we bring well over 100 runners every year. Everybody flies in from all over the country, and this is the place where everybody from the friends in the phone can actually meet up and be with each other. So that's the kind of things that we're organizing at the same time. So. I know that it was very long-winded. Probably get used to that because that's the way that I go.
Yeah.
But that's kind of me in a nutshell. So.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So Teresa Schweyer, she's also on with us on the show, and then she is the assistant executive director. So I've got the same question for you. I want to know about your running history and background, and then I also want to know about what your role is in the Sub 30 Club.
Yes. Well, first of all, Therese, not Teresa, but
I'm sorry. I see.
Okay.
I told you I was going to mess that up. I mean,
that's okay. I jokingly refer to myself as a boomerang runner. I was a cross country runner in high school and college, and stopped pretty suddenly in the middle of my junior year of college, and then took a very long break. And after my youngest was born in 2011, that was kind of my moment when I decided it was time that I needed to change how I was living. And through changing my diet and then exercise, and eventually getting back into running, is how I lost a bunch of weight, and has been running for over 5 years now, and mainly on the roads, but have tried all different distances, anything from a 5K up to a full marathon. And yes, I help Andy plan all of the different events for the club, and kind of help people out as needed, and kind of go from there.
And when she says help, she means like 50-50. I dump as much as I can on her. So.
Yeah.
She's your crystal. Gotcha. I understand.
All right. So we saved the best for last. And so, William, go ahead and pronounce your last name so I don't mess it up again.
Hi, I'm Will Baez. I've been running for about 4 years. I'm on the board of Sub 30. I'm a member of Team Track Shack, the local running store here in Central Florida. I started running like everybody else. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to get healthier and all that good stuff. But honestly, it took me about 2 races, and I was just taken over by the running community. I became a big fan of it. I got hooked, and from there, I continue to strive to be a part of the running community. I joined Sub 30 immediately as a beginner. I had so many questions, and I got so much support. Anything I asked, immediately people were ready to give me all of their work for them and everything, and it felt so welcoming. And then Team Track Shack. Team Track Shack is a team full of amazing athletes, and then I'm a middle of the pack runner. All of a sudden, they asked me to join the team. It just showed me that they cared from the first runner across the finish line to the middle, all the way to the last, and that meant the world to me, And seeing those two groups and the way they accepted me makes me just want to just be a part of the community. And honestly, it just keeps me coming back to all the local races, being part of the local races and doing what I can do to help. All the help that I've gotten, I just want to try to repay back. And honestly, my motivation is just to be part of the running community. Outside of that, I love running Disney races. I do them constantly. And other than that, if you want to find me in a race, you'll look for the guy in the middle of the pack, laughing, joking, and complaining that he's running at the same time.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for coming on. Thank you for introducing yourselves. And I've got one question that kind of goes along with what William said, and then I'll kind of turn it over to everyone else and let them ask some questions. But in the intro, we talked about how the club is made up of everyone from new runners to talented runners, long distance runners, triathletes, and everything in between. And William talked about the community, and so what do you think that it is that really unites everyone together in this sub 30 club?
Well, it's really running is the common thread, but it's the people that really make the difference, and it's one of these rare situations where it's this tiny little corner. I say 5,700 people's tiny little corner, but it's this tiny little corner of the internet that is not full of snark and is not full of this mean-spirited, people out to one-up each other and things like that. There really is this feeling of togetherness. And I don't care if your goal is a 50-minute 5K, or I don't care if you are chasing a 50-miler, or if you're looking for a 15-minute 5K. Like, we all recognize that. Like, look, none of us are perfect. None of us can stand there and say, look, I'm the best at this, because we're not out there winning races or anything like that. We're all just doing this because we love it. And I think we all kind of recognize that. So it's just a spirit of, I'm going to cheer you on, you're going to cheer me on, and we're both going to chase down our goals, even if those goals aren't the same. Does that kind of make sense?
I'm finding it hard to believe that there's hate on the internet. I haven't seen it.
I know, crazy talk, right?
I don't know what you're talking about there. It's all a loving place.
Are you tired of muscle cramps, running out of energy, and the dreaded gut bomb during an endurance event? That's why Sword created Sword Endurance Drink Mix. Clean, sustainable sports fuel for hour after hour of strenuous activity. With only 6 natural ingredients, it has everything your body needs and nothing it doesn't. So give Sword a try today. Head over to drinksword.com and use the discount code HeartlandRunner at checkout to save 20% off your purchase.
I would like to know what's involved in becoming a member of the Sub 30 Club. Are there secret handshakes you have to learn? Do you have to sacrifice a small animal in the middle of the woods or something? Or what's all involved?
Well, can't tell you all of it.
No, of course not.
No. Honestly, you find us on the good old Facebook, and I'm sure if you don't have the link already, we can get that to you immediately. And then all you do is just click join. It's a closed group, so you do have to request to join, and then because we try to filter out as much of the spammers and everything else. There's a board of admins. There's a big group of people who are taking a look at everybody who wants to join. So this way, we're just making sure that you're a real person. You're not trying to post 25 ads for Ray-Bans, and you're actually interested in talking about running. As long as you're an actual person, that's all that it takes.
And do you guys find, I know, like with our Facebook group, when someone wants to join, it's like real obvious if the person's a runner. Or, at least looking at, because you can look at their personal profile in like 2 seconds. Do you find the same thing? You're like, oh yeah, this person's in.
Oh, there are some, and I mean, Will and Therese can both speak to this too, but I mean, like, there are some where you can see, their profile picture is them holding up 7 Disney medals. I think they're safe. But then there, the other thing that you want to be careful of, at least that we try to be careful of, is even if they don't necessarily look like a runner, that doesn't mean that they don't want to become one. So that, I'm always much more lenient with that. I'd say lenient, but, much more open with that kind of thing to make sure that, even if maybe there's a guy, because when I started running, I looked nothing like a runner. So, I mean, I was still welcomed with open arms. So I try to make sure that I'm keeping that mentality. What about you guys?
I mean, Andy pretty much said it all, that we do take a quick look, and, but yeah, we welcome anybody who wants to run, wants to start running. We also welcome anybody who has, already a long list of accomplishments with running. It's kind of, anybody who wants to join in and lend support is welcome.
I'm just here because I like Facebook stalking. So every time you ask to join, I get to look through your profile, I look through your pictures, I look at your history. No. I just like Andy and Therese said, just a quick overview. You request to join the club. We take a look at it and make sure that you're not a spammer, and then you're in. And then from there, it's whatever you make it of the club. You can come in and just stalk. We have so many people that just look every day and get motivated and just talk once every blue moon. We got people who talk every day, and it's wonderful because it gets conversations going. But honestly, the club and you're in the end.
So does everything pretty much happen through Facebook then? Do you have any other kind of outside sources, or is everything through Facebook?
I'd say Facebook is the main thing, but that's kind of a loaded answer because there's the main Facebook page. I'm doing air quotes and you can't see it. But then we also have I'd say there's like 20 different subgroups as well. And, I mean, we've got different things for everything. So, I mean, like there's a subgroup that's really dedicated to people trying to lose weight. There's a subgroup dedicated to ultra runners. There's a subgroup to people who run with their dogs. I mean, there's pretty much everything you can imagine. There's an extra kind of offshoot to go along with it. I mean, geographically located areas, like there's a Philly area subgroup and a Georgia, like an Atlanta subgroup and like a Pacific Northwest. So and that's where people will talk about like local races and things like that, where they all kind of get together and go together. So, but that's, the Facebook is the real main meat and potatoes of it all. But, but that leads to other things. Like we have a Twitter, we have an Instagram and things like that. But it all kind of feeds back right into the Facebook group.
And it was funny because one of my next questions was, I was just curious, with out of 5,700 runners, I'm like, surely there has to be some subgroups. And I was curious about that. And you answered that ahead of time. So one of the things too, that to keep interest and stuff, I know that you have different like daily topics and weekly topics. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'd heard about too is that you do a weekly podcast discussion. So to me, my understanding of it, it almost seems like a running podcast version of book club. And so I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit, because I found that really interesting.
Yes. Yeah, we did. Will actually was the one who kind of came up with the idea, and he approached one of our other members who does a lot of podcast listening herself. And Will has suggested that she kind of go through and all the different podcasts that she listens to come up with some that are running related, more or less, different topics. And then she usually gives a heads up and says, this is the podcast we're going to listen to. And then a couple of days later, she starts the conversation and comes up with a list of questions or discussion points that she kind of wants to talk about. And then the discussion kind of goes from there. So tomorrow will be our next podcast discussion.
I think we just had our last podcast was about you guys, actually. One of your episodes, no?
It was, correct. Yeah.
It was indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Yep, we'll talk about episode 17 tomorrow, which had Dr. Ray, the podiatrist. Who,
talking about feet.
Yeah, I got my correct toes on right now. Hey, maybe we can.
That was a really interesting conversation that we had with him, and that kind of opened my eyes on some things. And that's kind of one of the things that we really enjoy to do on this podcast, is to bring experts on and maybe talk about some things that usually aren't talked about very much, but tend to be really important to. Maybe a solution to someone, and maybe it's not something that everyone needs, but that might be just that one or two listeners out there that could really help them, and maybe that can transfer over to your group, and maybe that might be something that can help them too. So we greatly appreciate you guys sharing that.
Yes, thank you. And Andy,
of course,
you're not looking at the big picture. We might get our first 1-star review out of this.
That'd be great.
Yes, that will be a celebration time.
Well, it's Sarah. I want to mention her name because she does such a great job. Sarah Williardi is the one that does it for us, and she does a great job listening and keeping her eye out for the different podcasts and different subjects, because there's so many out there. And she does a great job. So I just wanted to give her props there.
And Sarah's her name?
Yep.
Thank you, Sarah. You're the greatest.
Hey, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
We've heard good things.
Okay, so your club, it's also gained a lot of notoriety for holding meetups at races and events. Can you talk a little bit about this, and especially about the Runners World Half and the festival? Seems like, that's a big focal point of your organization. But first off, what other races that are out there that you have meetups, and then after that, talk about the Runners World Half and what that means to your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first off, some of the other things that we've done. Just this February, as a matter of fact, we had a big meetup where I think about 30 of us all flew in from all over the country down to Florida, which is not a bad place to be in February.
Yeah.
For the Gasparilla Distance Classic. It's kind of a very similar setup where it's a weekend long thing. There's a 15K and a 5K on Saturday. There's a half marathon on Sunday. And we just make it like a big party. We make a big giant weekend out of it. So, and of course, us being us with over planning and everything else, we try to make like a big itinerary. Okay, we're going to go here on Friday night. And everybody just kind of hang out, run the races together. During the races, we'll try to pair people up who are similar paced to kind of go even a step further than that. We'll also run our own little pace groups where we actually, you're talking to the three of us who have really kind of pioneered we call it the middle of the pack party. So it's kind of it's an interval. Will and I had the initial idea way back a couple years ago, saying, all right, let's make it accessible to a lot of people. So we're going to run at a pace that's not crazy. We're not going to be killing ourselves. We just want to lean back and have a good time with it and run intervals. So as many people can join as possible. And that's also going to give us time to kind of laugh and joke and everything else in the middle of the race. So, so we're running 3-minute run, 1-minute walk intervals, holding a nice and steady, even pace, throughout the race. And that's kind of like some of the stuff that we'll do. We'll do dinners together. So that's during the race. We'll get together afterwards. We'll do dinners together. We'll just kind of all get together and just hang out and have fun. So we did Gasparilla down in February. A lot of, Ragnar or relay teams. We just had a team that was populated of pretty much all sub 30 members out at Hood to Coast. So there's a whole bunch of things. I know that there's a big crew on the West Coast who's trying to put something together for next year. There's more details to come as soon as we get everything finalized. But and all of those are kind of replicas of the very first meetup that we really did, and that was the Runners World Half and Festival. I kind of touched on it a little bit in the beginning, so rather than belabor the point, I'll pass it off to Therese, who really kind of heads up all the planning for it.
Yeah, every October, Runners World hosts a running festival in Bethlehem, which is about 12 miles from their headquarters in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. And they have 4 races, trail run on Friday, a 5 and a 10K on Saturday, and a half marathon on Sunday. And you can run one of the races or all of the races. They have a couple different challenges. They have a hat trick challenge, which is the 5K, the 10K, and the half. They have the Grand Slam, which is all 4 races. And they also have the 5 and dime, which is the 5K and the 10K. And we really have had members of the club attend since the event started. I believe it was 2012, the first time they had the festival. But our first really big meetup was in 2014. And we ended up pulling about 60 members. And, even back then we had people flying up from Florida, such as Will and his wife. And we had people flying up from California, all to little Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for this festival. And then it's only gotten bigger since then. In 2015, we had about 120 runners. In 2016, we had about 120 runners. And so far for 2017, we have over 100 runners as well. They're already registered for at least one of the races. And it's really just a great weekend to get together and socialize and meet people that you normally only see in your phone. We've even had some international members come. We've had somebody from New Zealand fly all the way to the United States and come to the Runners World Festival as part of a tour a few years ago that she was doing in the United States. So, and as Andy mentioned, we have different social events. So we'll have a happy hour, or we'll get together for a dinner. We'll get together for a post-half celebration. But really the big thing that we started in 2014 and has continued on there is we stay until the last runner finishes. Our tagline is no subber left behind. And we kind of look at all runners as subbers or possibly even future subbers. So we stay and cheer for everyone. And we have people who are willing to run people in if they want it. The last part of the race, if they want some company. And then as people finish, the subbers, we gather and cheer and until the last finisher finishes. We really do welcome everyone at the finish line. So nobody is left finishing alone.
That's wonderful. I'd heard that before, but I didn't realize when you mean the end, you mean the end, not your last runner. These very last. Wow, that's really cool.
Okay, I have to interrupt here. Crystal, no, not this year.
You know you want to.
Not this year.
I like to fill Steven's calendar with all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah. And Runner's World is really accommodating since we are kind of loosely associated with them. We kind of are able to essentially take over the finish line with our cheerers. And, we realize that unfortunately we can't do that at every race. So that's why we really make it a point to do it at least that race, so that people can realize that, we really are there for everyone. And yes, the very last runner, the runner finishes, there's the police car, we wait until everybody is finished.
Now that kind of brings up a question I'd like to ask each of you, because we were talking about this the other week, that not many people stay till the end of the race to cheer on other runners. What are some other things you would like to see change in the running community besides that? If each of you could maybe just pick one.
Well, honestly, for me, I think I would like to just see more. It's kind of like the unspoken thing. It's not talked about as much, and attitudes are kind of shifting more lately. And maybe it's just the company that I've been keeping for the past couple of years, but people are starting to become more open to the slower runners, the run walkers, everybody, in a perfect world, I would love to see attitudes shift and see everyone recognized as a runner. Again, in air quotes. I just want to make sure that everyone's valued the same way. Yes, the person who's, in the front of the pack, or even in the front of the middle of the pack they're a runner, but so is the person who's killing themselves to come in dead last, or you're within the final 10%. The 3 hour half marathoner is just as important and just as accomplished as the 1.5 hour half marathon. So that's what I would like to just see that continue.
Definitely. You've got to work hard to run an 1.5 hour half marathon, but it's just as hard to run a 3 hour half marathon.
Absolutely.
A lot of time on your feet.
There's a lot of time up there.
Yeah, and I think I would kind of go off of that a little bit with the race support for the back of the pack. We've heard so many stories about subbers who are finishing the race and the finish line has been taken down. How disheartening is, like you said, they put in so much work and then they get to the finish line and there's nobody there. So I know that races are getting better, and I know a lot of people have brought it up, but that's something that I would really like to see at more races, is more support for those back of the packers.
I don't have a lot more to add than that. I can always use more donuts, on the course. That'd be sweet if we can have that done. But to tell you the truth, I'm still relatively new to the running world, and I see changes little by little, and they're all in the positive. To me, it's just a continuation of the evolution of including everybody. I hear so many stories about overseas, how they have such a want to hold the faster runners, and that's it, and not spreading it to the community. I see here the love and the support for throughout the whole race, that just increasing that is all I see, to tell the truth.
Oh, definitely. I think, if someone's mad because they're slower runners, they need to go run some more. But, it's given me an idea. You know what we should do, our Andy and Crystal? We need to pick a race that we know, that the aid stations aren't really good at the end. And we need just to bring out the ultimate party once the main ending closes up.
I love it.
Champagne and the whole plenty of.
I'm liking it even more.
Fireworks.
Yeah, man. One of your briskets.
Some sword and donuts, but I'm going with your idea.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Maybe you should try Runner's World in Bethlehem Try starting there.
Crystal, no.
I might have to go to that next October. I might have to.
I'm sorry, what did you say? This October? What?
Well, hang on.
You won't regret it. It's an amazing thing. See, even like they said, the last runner is not a suburb, but we stay there for them anyway, and we cheer like it's like it's your favorite ball team winning the championship. We cheer for them, and to see them, most of the time they end up crying because of emotions and joy just to see people there cheering them on. It's an amazing thing, man. It's crazy.
Oh, definitely.
And then sometimes they become subbers as a result.
Yeah,
I understand. What weekend is that in October?
It is October 20th, 21st, 22nd.
I don't know, Crystal. Maybe.
I want to revisit something. When you were talking about some of the meetups and some of the other stuff, you talked about Ragnar. And so I was thinking that kind of falls between Ragnar and Tunnel Hill. So this year, Stephen and I are doing our first relay. So we got invited on for Team Sword, and they are doing the Bourbon Chase. So we're a team of 6. They've decided to sign up as the Ultra, but we have not done a relay before. We have not done Ragnar before. What kind of advice or what kind of stories? We've been told pack the van with toilet paper. We know that's a big one, but outside of that, what can you give us?
I wish I could have had something for you. It's on my bucket list, but I have not yet had the chance to do it. And I can tell you, Therese has sworn them off violently.
The vans scare me.
Oh, there's the
I haven't done one either. I've tentatively talked about one with a running group that I have that actually made up of some 30 members for 2020. Our races are so far out in advance. So actually, I'm hoping you guys have a big old episode about it and tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Well, there we go. We need a Ragnar episode.
Yes.
We will have.
We should do that.
Well, that'll be a big episode. Well, no, that'll be. Well, yeah, because that episode will be Ragnar and then Chicago. So that will be a big episode. All
Yeah,
right.
the only piece of advice that I know I've seen people mention is bring Ziploc bags for your dirty clothes, like the big gallon Ziploc bag.
Oh.
So when you're changing, you just put the dirty clothes in the Ziploc bags, and then you deal with it later.
Oh, we got to change clothes.
Ziploc bags away from my Ziploc bag.
Right.
You take the bag home, burn it, and bury it.
Exactly.
But I'm supposed to bring a change of clothes?
Wow.
But you don't have to. That's optional.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we're talking races, and I noticed that the sub club they put on some virtual races, and so how did those come about, and how did you sign up for them, and what sort of participation do you have with those?
Okay, so the way that they came about is, quite honestly, I wanted an excuse to print up some T-shirts and get them into the club. So that was our way to do it. So I was like, all right, if we participate in the virtual, then the medal or the swag that you get for participation will be this custom printed T-shirt, and that was the very first Sub 30 Club T-shirt that we ever did and distributed. In addition to that, it was a way, because we're kind of recognizing that it's a digital club, it's a virtual club with people across the country, and while that's awesome, and I can be friends with Will, who lives down in Florida, while I'm up here outside of Philadelphia. That doesn't do much for when I want to go out and go for an actual run outside. I'm still by myself. So, this was kind of a way to, even though we're all in different places, we can all run together, if that, in that loose sense of the term. And it really, it kind of took off. So we said, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll do all this. We'll charge a fee as if you were going to run a regular race. Any profits that we make that are left over after, because we just use the entry fee to print up the shirts and mail them. Any profit that we had left over, we're going to donate to charity, and that's going to be that. And it just kind of took off from there. It's now become one of the big fundraisers that we do every year. We pick one charity, official charity of the club, which it also just lines up to be the official charity of the Runners World Festival. It's a St. Luke's Healthy Kids program. It's a hospital network located up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, that runs a multitude of children's programs for the area. So yes, I mean, like, that's the virtual has been our big fundraiser every year, and it's just a way that we can, while we're all doing something that we'd be doing anyway, we're just going out and having fun and running with each other. But it's a way to kind of give back at the same time. Does anybody else?
Yeah, I was going to say we have it set up so that it lines up with all of the races that are being held at the Runners World Fest. So
Right.
you can virtually run a trail run. You can virtually run the 5K, the 10K, the half. You can even virtually do any of the challenges. And, the prices are adjusted for that. And then the same thing where the proceeds go towards St. Luke's.
Right. And the same kind of idea, recognizing that not everybody, I mean, if you live in Oregon, it's a huge expense to fly across the country, stay in a hotel, eat out for a whole weekend, plus register for races and run them. So recognizing that this is still a way that this is the big meetup that the club does every year. And even though some people aren't able to physically be there, we can still all be contributing to this big overall goal, because we use this as the time to donate the money to the charity as well. So we're all contributing to it, even those who are there, even those who aren't there, everybody together working together.
So whenever you see some of the people wearing the sub 30 shirts, then there's not a store out there or a virtual store that they're buying that from. I mean, they've done a virtual run or a real run, so I mean they're legit. I mean they're the real deal.
No, they are the real deal. And it's funny that you say that. We actually do have we run shirt sales now. We have a company that prints them up and sends them out for us. But a couple times a year now, we'll actually, put out the big, t-shirt or swag campaign at this point, because it's so much more than shirts anymore. Somehow this has grown from, hey, let's get a t-shirt for doing a virtual, and it's turned into jackets and sweatpants and shorts and hats and everything you can think of with a sub 30 logo on it. But yeah, if you see someone out there with a sub 30 something on, they're legit. It's not the only way to get it is to be part of the club, and you really got to be working for it to get it.
I've never done a virtual race, but I think we can probably do this one, guys.
I think so. I think we should put this on our schedule.
We can do that, definitely.
And y'all can get sub 30 shirts also. I think it would look great.
Yeah.
Dang right. All the ladies will be
plan
after
for
me.
a live event sometime, like to do a live sub 30 race.
Never say never. Nothing is off the table.
Well, that's why we've adopted the Runners World Half and Festival as our. They do all the work, and then we just come and run it.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's like Therese said. I mean, at Runners World, I mean, we certainly do not bear the brunt of actually organizing or planning or making it all happen. However, you can't go 100 yards anywhere that entire weekend without seeing someone wearing a sub 30 something, because we just kind of take over the entire area, and it's kind of awesome, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, I've got one last question, and it seems to something, this entire conversation that we've had to really, really wrap things up. And I think it goes back down to the core of your organization and the key message. And it seems to be that, you're all in this together, and you all have everyone's backs. And that's such a huge, huge deal. And no subber left behind. And it's such a big departure from, that front of the pack, which, they're amazing. We love them. They're amazing athletes.
Well, thank you, Andy.
You're welcome, Stephen. But when they're done, they're done. And sometimes I kind of suffer from this myself. That I finish up with a race, I'm destroyed. I don't want to be there anymore. And I've left early before, but I've also been one of those guys that I've stayed behind too. Whenever it's an event that I've got people with my personal running group that, I want to make sure that I want to see them across the finish line. And that's important to me. That's also important for them. And it's important for them to know that, someone's going to be there waiting for them and watching for them. And, I think that embodies the whole thing, the whole sub 30 thing that you've got going on here. And I think it's really something special that you've got going. And I'm personally really inspired by it. But I would like to go, all three of you, and what does this no subber left behind? I mean, what does it mean to you? And I'm sure you've got some good examples, good stories. Sorry about my dog barking upstairs. That's what she does.
All three of us are hiding from our kids right now to try to keep the noise to a minimum.
Yeah. So anyway, hopefully she'll stop or bite whoever is up there. But I'll go ahead and give an example, of myself personally. That and that's something that we've said before in my running group, but no one finishes by themselves, or no one's left behind, or anything like that. My running group is run through my church, and so we have a Bible study, and then we go out for a run, and I think that it's important for us because we almost have this attitude that the church is just a building, or a place people meet is just a meeting place. But we take our community with us whenever we go out for a run. We take our church with us whenever we go out for a run. And so whenever we're doing things like that, whenever we're struggling together, whenever things are hard, it kind of binds us together tighter, and it makes us closer as a group. And so whenever I'm listening to the story of the Sub 30 Club, and what you discussed, that's kind of the emotions and the feelings that I get. And I just kind of want to get, go all three of you, just kind of give an example of what you feel that no subber left behind means.
I don't know about that, Therese and Andy, but to me, when I think of no subber left behind, one of the things that always pops up at me is not just so much what happens during a race, but what happens in Facebook when we're posting. You'll get a person out there and they'll post something that happened to them. The run didn't go as planned. The training plan didn't go as planned. Something went wrong, and they think they're by themselves, and they kind of just throw it out there. When I hear no subber left behind, it's amazing to see how many people jump on that thread and remind those people that they're not alone. They're not the only ones that had the bad training run, that had the bad race, that had the bad experience with goo, that had this go wrong, rain, shoe, whatever, that it happens to everybody. And they make sure that the person who posts, who feels like the world is crashing down on them, that it isn't. That happened to me. I did this, and this fixed it. Or I went back at it, and you can get back at it. And we make sure that when these people post, and that when things are going wrong, we're right there for them, and we don't let them just sit there in limbo feeling by themselves like they're the only ones who had that experience. So that's one thing that every time I see it, and every time I see someone post something that bad happened to them, I know that it's only a matter of time before everybody starts clicking in to let them know you're not alone. This has happened before, and this is what you got to do, and we're right there for you.
Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, we're both looking at each other over Skype here. Okay, so for me, I mean, it's really to kind of piggyback up on what Will said first. It's not even technically just in the running experience either. I mean, we've had people who've had just things happen to them in real life, or they'll come to it by saying, "Oh, my plan got derailed, and the reason why is because there was a death in the family, or there was this terrible thing happened in my real life, not in my running." And just to see the support that Will was talking about, that doesn't just transfer to training runs or to tempo runs and speed work and things like that. It translates into just honest to goodness people connecting with each other. So I mean, I think it just kind of carries through. It's the people and the connections that really make it special. Outside of that, I mean, what it really means to me is, I mean, it's kind of what I talked about before. It's this all inclusive attitude, and we talked a lot about the back of the Packers. And I mean, we've got people who are legitimately blazing fast too, and it's just this whole, there's a non-judgmental attitude that goes on, that really, that's kind of what it means to me, at least, is the whole no subber left behind. There's the person who can, who has run like a 15 or 16 minute 5K is there asking questions at the same time saying, "Hey, what would you guys do?" Or "I've been struggling with this lately." And of course you get some people who go, "Oh, your warm up is better than my best day." But for the most part, people say, "All right, well, you're chasing a goal just like I'm chasing a goal, and let's talk about what I do to better myself, and maybe that'll help you too." The running joke is in the very first post that Ted Spiker ever put up when he started this thing. He said, we're going to do this digitally, together, but still together. And, please, oh, please let there be more, more than 5 of us, which is, there's now 5,700 of us. But then the thing that really kind of hits me, and it hits me so much that we ended up putting it on the back of our shirts now, is we may not win the race, but we're going to win ours. So, I mean, that kind of drives home to me what the whole attitude of this really is.
That's a really tough question. Because Will touched on kind of the virtual community and support. And then, Andy's touched on how stuff that happens outside of running and the support that goes along with that. And I think really for me, it just kind of boils down to making the connections with the people, and they go from people in your friends in your phone to close friends to family. I mean, there's conversations that we have with various people, like, how when you're on a run, you talk about a lot of stuff and you get to learn about a lot of different people. And it's really just the sense of community that I think of when I think of No Sub or Left Behind, because yes, it happens in races and we make sure that all of our people have company if they want it. But at the same time, we're also just supporting them in their day-to-day life.
That's great. I love all of those answers.
Really good answers.
That just embodies everything that we, that all of us do. And I really appreciate your honesty on that. So, Stephen, Crystal, any other questions?
I think I am tapped out for the night.
Yeah, I'm good. But, I want to say I really do appreciate what you do. And I think you have an important message and an important place in service. I know, like, for myself and for Stephen as well, when I run, it's typically at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm out there by myself, and I run by myself 99% of the time.
Yep.
And so it's just been over this last little bit through the podcast and through groups like yours that it's really nice. And I think it's very, very important to have that sense of community. So I really appreciate what you guys do.
Definitely.
I think it's a good deal.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, actually, one of our most popular daily posts is the EMC check-in or the early morning crew, because there's so many people that are doing the exact same thing as you. They're getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get a workout in before work or before the kids wake up or, whatever their situation is. And they post and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, because it gives them a sense of, I'm not the only one out here doing this.
The 4 a.m. club. Yes, we're all members of that here at the Heartland crew. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I really thank you guys so much for spending your time this evening and hiding from children and coming on here. So that way we could all geek out about running like we do every time we do an episode on here. Most importantly, let's talk about that Facebook page. If anyone is interested in joining the Sub 30 group, where can they find that on Facebook?
Yeah, it is the Sub 30 Club. And then also in parentheses, it says from the RW Big Guy blog. But as long as you start typing in the Sub 30 Club, it should pop up.
Okay. Any other social places to go to online?
There's Twitter and Instagram, both at the Sub 30 Club.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we're going to put links to that into the show notes. And so, yes, I'd definitely like to thank William, Therese, and Andy for taking your time coming on here. And if anyone's interested in checking out some of these races, then definitely like the Runner's Worlds. That way you can join up with a Sub 30 group and see what they've got going on. Sounds like they party hard in the middle of the pack, back of the pack, front of the pack, wherever there's a pack. It sounds like they're partying, having a good time. And maybe sometimes check out one of those virtual races. I'm definitely going to do that because I want one of those sweet Sub 30 shirts, Sub Club shirts. So anyway, once again, I'd like to give a shout out to the Ozark Mountain Daredevils for the use of their music on our podcast. As always, we certainly appreciate it. If you want some more information, you can definitely go to www.heartlandrunning.com, where we're going to have the show notes, other interesting things. And make sure you join our Facebook group. Definitely go to the Sub Club Facebook group and join theirs too. But you can join them both. And then also call our voicemail at area code 417-319-1060. If you have something like a trail review, gear review, you want to say some negative things about Crystal, then we're definitely up to hear about that. If we like what you have to say, we'll put you on this show. And then also make sure you go to iTunes and give us a review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the more people are going to find our show. Or if you want to do a 1-star review, then we'll probably read it on air, and then we'll send you maybe poo in a bag.
Don't encourage them.
Anyway, once again, thank you everyone from the Sub 30 Club for coming on. And I am Andy.
I'm Crystal.
And I'm Steven.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for putting us in your ears.